Good.
Again, this is Dr. Tony, you Chiropractic Clinic in Upland. This is my guest, I think a third or fourth time, Layne Vanlieshout, correct?
Vanlieshout.
Vanlieshout. See, again, I'm very consistent in the way I pronounce it improperly. We're here to talk about detoxing. This is we're getting into the holidays. Thanks, Halloween, then Thanksgiving, then New Year's, then Christmas, all the stuff we're going through. Everyone worries about gaining weight, being stressed, everything else too. How to get our body ready for it, but also doing a detox. We'll talk about what that is. People that don't know how to do it naturally and healthy, so our body doesn't become depleted from our nutrients, and we feel sometimes in this specious time of year we get sick. We do things that, and sometimes people spend thousands of dollars to detox. They go back to eating the same way they were before. Or drinking the day before too. So how do we, one thing, what my question for Layne, we'll go to the topics too, is how do we know if our body is toxic, if we need detox for one, and how do we do it naturally? So let's get Layne right into it too. What are the signs of someone who's detoxed? Or actually, give me your background first. Give me what you're doing, because you've done phenomenal work with all your clients, and that's why I want you on my show. You've done a great job the last couple of years I've known you to grow your clientele, because you have great information and you help them. So what's going on with your life? What's going on with your career, profession?
Yeah, thanks for having me again. These are always so fun. I'm Layne Vanlieshout, and I'm a functional health practitioner. So my whole goal and philosophy is to help people get to the root cause of their symptoms. My primary clientele are women, typically in their 20s, 30s, some into their 40s. It really just depends on kind of the symptoms that they're dealing with. And the most common things that people seek help from me with are things with their gut. So like IBS, irregularity, bloating. They feel like they're eating really healthy, but they're still reacting to certain foods. So they have these food intolerances. They're like, what am I doing wrong? Nausea, heartburn, all sorts of stuff like that, but also hormones. So we can have menstrual cycle irregularities, like a lot of pain, a lot of heaviness, mood changes, anxiety, brain fog, and then low energy is a big one too. And then lower metabolism, super common and very popular reasons to seek support. And so my goal is to get to the bottom of all of this and help support them naturally. And so we do that using a 3-step approach. We get labs up front, see where the imbalances are, helps me kind of hone in on what are the biggest areas that need support now. And then we tailor a protocol for them based on their lab results and their symptoms and their goals, and really just the context of their entire story. And so it's a streamlined approach and just targeted and a clear path forward. And then I support them every step of the way. You do not have to figure this out on your own anymore. It is an all-encompassing program to help you get where you're wanting to go as quick as possible.
And to go on that topic too, why is it good to go someone outside a medical, if you want to call it profession, to get that type of advice versus staying within your insurance company, within your medical network? What's the different perspective? How does that work?
Yeah, so the conventional medical model, and I can say this because I was trained in it, I worked in it, I lived it for a while, and the whole philosophy there is diagnose and treat. So you're labeling a collection of symptoms or a disease, and you're choosing a pharmaceutical regimen or agent to help with symptoms. So it's symptom suppression. You're just covering them up. You're not really making them go away. You're putting a Band-Aid over them, and that's totally necessary and reasonable in some cases for emergency care, acute triage, that type of stuff. But like long-term, we want a better plan because the medications aren't going to reverse the underlying imbalances. So in the meantime, we really want to be working on nutrition and lifestyle. And that's such a huge area that's lacking in the conventional model because there's a lot of time constraints. Insurance calls the shots. And also when it comes to labs, a lot of people can't get the labs they really need because they won't be covered by insurance. There's a lot of hoops to jump through with it. And I find that when I get to choose what we're doing, it's just so much quicker, easier, and faster. So it just really helps take out a lot of the guesswork. There's still a lot of guessing and just standard approaches. So it's not as customized with a conventional model either.
It's almost like if you have a problem and want to take care of it now, do you want to have to navigate and negotiate with your medical doctor to not only see the doctor, but also then having to, well, not beg, but now say the right terminology, get the right labs. And then you're talking about 3, 4, 5 weeks later, 6 weeks later, you could have been already on a program with Layne to get your body healthier off the bat. So you're not waiting the whole time.
Right.
That's my benefit. I don't like to wait. I'm impatient.
No.
No. And with that too, I like the labs because those are objective findings. and you want different ones to help your body heal. Does that help you understanding where your body is toxic also and where your body needs help from a health perspective?
For sure. I mean, I specifically do gut testing and hormone testing, and then we also do nutrients in blood work and inflammatory markers, so we can kind of gather some data with like what your body's up against as far as overarching toxic burden, so to speak. I have done testing before where we're looking for specific toxins, but what I found was that we needed a lot more done first. So that might be something to do later down the road. First, let's get our gut in check, our hormones well balanced, and then we can go with some of the other tests that are out there, because the foundations are going to stay the same for the vast majority of people, like 80-90%. They need to get some strong foundations in place before we even talk about detoxing. And that's another thing that we'll talk about today, is because if you just go straight in with a detox without having optimal gut health and digestion, you're going to run into like unwanted symptoms and might feel a lot worse.
It's something to where everyone's human body requires certain nutrients and certain ways to be efficient or deficient or even toxic too. Once you have those standards in play, then you can kind of play the system a little bit, correct?
Yeah. So once you have let's get optimal protein in, let's get lots of fiber in, let's get our bowels moving every day, let's support our liver, and then you can fine tune and go for more of the targeted detox approaches.
You'll know something will pop up. Okay, this is now we're going to focus on. But when you have everything involved, you kind of want to break it down one variable at a time, correct?
Yeah, because it can be really overwhelming, not only to the person, like mentally it can be overwhelming, but your body can get physically overwhelmed too when you try to do so much at once. Then it can be really confusing with what's working and what's not.
And what's the time frame for something like that to kind of get your body more settled in one little, not a habit, more of a healthier or more stable gut health?
Everybody's a little different depending on where they start. Like, what is their current lifestyle when they come to me? But most people, 4 to 6 months. We want like a really strong starting point. We cover a ton of ground in that time. And then usually they're feeling so much better. And then they're coming from a place of strength to then talk about a potentially more detailed or in-depth detox.
When you tell your clients 4 to 6 months, do they go into like, what? Why so long? Or that's normal? That seems normal to them?
I find that they're ready for it. They're like, I've been dealing with this for years. What's 4 to 6 months? I can feel so much better in that short period of time compared to these like year 2, 3, 4, 5 that I've been struggling. So yeah, it's really well received.
It's amazing when people have that longevity of, I want my health better for a long time, not just a year from now, not just blah, blah, blah. They think like you said, they've already gone through the rigmarole of taking medication, being diagnosed with this, trying this. They've been depleted from that system. They're almost distrusting. Now they want to find a way to make their health better naturally. And you're giving them that pathway to get there, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's the sustainability piece that's really important too.
And when you mentioned also prior exposures, what does that mean with helping someone understanding where their toxicity may come from?
So we're exposed to toxins continuously, right? In our air, our home environment, pollution outside, chemicals in our food, pesticides, personal care products. I mean, there's the continuous input that our body is up against, and our body makes its own toxins as well, like metabolic byproducts, and that's normal and it should be doing that. But our whole goal is to be able to eliminate the toxins properly. And that's where a lot of the barriers or challenges come in, is because our body's brilliant, right? Like it's very well equipped to handle everyday things, everyday toxins, everyday stress. But the problem is when it literally is every single day, and an insult after insult, it's like a compounding effect. I don't know if you've ever heard of the analogy like with a toxin bucket, but if you imagine like we were all born with this, toxin bucket, so to speak, and we all have like a unique capability to handle and manage toxins. And so toxins come in, fills the bucket, the body is dumping out the toxins, getting rid of them like it should. But the more and more that we're exposed, and if our body's not able to eliminate properly, that bucket can overflow. And that's when we start to see symptoms, especially. And that can be gut symptoms, hormones, skin, immune system. And so the goal is to not only reduce the input or the exposure of the toxins, but also optimize the ability to get rid of them.
It is also like you mentioned initially, to getting your gut health better first, so then you can handle more toxins than you would if your gut health was actually unhealthy or sick.
what question was
Yeah,
that? Sorry.
in the sense where going your topic too, if we can handle if our gut is healthy, like you mentioned, the 4 to 6 months, they can handle more toxins. You can kind of see where your body can handle naturally, in addition to eliminating toxins in your diet and also just your environment too.
Yeah, and gut health is huge because our intestines, so
Mhm.
our stool, bowel movements are our final pathway to toxin elimination. So if your gut health is not great, especially if you're dealing with more sluggish motility or constipation, then the toxins are simply not coming out. And we're taking out the trash when we poop every day. It's the trash, the waste, the substances in our body that are again some of them supposed to be there, others we bring on from the environment, but we have to get them out. And so if we're not getting them out, that's when the bucket overflows. But this also has a lot to do with our liver and our gallbladder. Those are part of the gut as well, the GI system. And so those have to be optimized, and they all really work together.
And what in someone's blood work are you looking for to see if they can eliminate properly? What's their blood work going to show or kind of identify?
It's hard to always see on blood work. We look at liver markers, but they're not always elevated. Those can be years in the making before they're elevated. And so we usually, when they are elevated, we're thinking of like fatty liver type situation or acute liver inflammation, which is like a medical emergency type thing. But, that can be a marker. Also, just looking at inflammatory markers. But then one of the really cool tests that I love, well, one is the GI map. This is a stool analysis. And one of the markers that it measures is called beta-glucuronidase, which is an enzyme that certain bacteria can produce, and it can decouple estrogen from the escort that was going to eliminate it. So if you imagine, okay, so what the liver does is it's going to package up estrogen. It's going to put a bow on it. It is ready to go. Gets put into the intestines to be eliminated. But beta-glucuronidase can come around, act like scissors, snip off the bow, and now estrogen is no longer packaged, and it can recirculate. So that tells us that the liver needs some support and that there might be some bacteria that are overgrown contributing to the activity of that enzyme. And then the second test that I love is the Dutch test. So this is a urinary hormone test. And one of the cool insights that we get from it is how you metabolize estrogen through the liver. And so you'll see 3 different pathways, and we want a certain combination of all 3, but primarily down one of the pathways that is known to be more protective. So if we see one of the other 2 being more dominant, then we know that the liver is struggling a little bit, and we can start to shift to the other pathway using different nutrition hacks and supplements.
And that makes sense to me, but for someone who's watching, it's almost like we're going to use different tests to prove our theory that you have this problem, which is phenomenal. And it allowed Layne to walk you through what that means, allows you to go, okay, we're going to check your urine, we check your stool, we're going to check your blood work, we're going to check everything so we know we're not missing anything, or we can double check what we think might be in there as our theory. And then again, using all information to give you a solid treatment plan to make your body and your gut health better. Boom.
Yes.
Correct? Good. And why are some people, looking at your questions too, why are some people more prone to be toxic than others besides their environment? Is it a genetic thing? Is it something that we're born with?
It can be genetic. And the important thing to know is that your genetics don't determine your fate. So we can't hang our hat on that and be like, oh, I'll always have this because of my genetics. We cannot settle for that. I heard this saying, I don't remember who said it, but like genetics load the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger. Huge. So you can activate your genetics in certain ways that are either more helpful or more harmful. So yes, there can be a genetic predisposition, but the vast majority is going to be lifestyle and nutrition driven.
I tell people too, it's like you may have predisposed to something that maybe in your health, maybe for headaches, migraines, or scoliosis, for what I do, but it's almost now how do you counter that with more stretching, more exercise, more being aware of your diet, of even your lifestyle, so you know if you're off a little bit more than Johnny or your friend, it's going to affect you more. So you have to be more aware of how you're being affected by your environment, lifestyle, your toxicity around you, then improve that over time.
Yeah, and just honoring that we're all unique and we all have this bio-individuality. So what works for me is not going to work for Dr. Tony and for the next person over. And so that's where the customization piece of my program and really what I help clients with is so huge, because there's not a one-size-fits-all protocol or program. And so how can we tailor it to make sense for your specific situation?
And going over some of your notes too, what are some things with food, water that you kind of talk to your clients are more common that become more of a way to change your life? So what do you talk about with food and water?
Well, first we want to eat whole foods for the most part. That doesn't mean you can never touch a
And
processed.
what are whole? I mean, just to back up, what are whole foods? Actually, some people we're West Coast, we eat McDonald's. I don't know what do we eat over here.
We do too, but whole foods are going to look as similarly as they did when they either came out of the ground or came from the animal. So of course, there's some of it is going to look a little bit different, but you don't want it to be so unrecognizable. Like a carrot should look like it did when it came out of the ground, except maybe it's been chopped up or cleaned or whatever. So that's just an example. And then processed foods are mostly going to be coming in like packages with lots of ingredients in there. So to clarify, like oatmeal comes in a package. It is somewhat processed, but it's more of a whole food than say like another type of cereal. Same thing with beans. They come in a package. Rice comes in a package, but look at the ingredient label. It's beans or rice or oatmeal. And so
take the can, empty the can out, eat the canned food. This is a bachelor life type of lifestyle. And with fast foods, do you recommend your clients to hold off on fast food completely, or certain ones that are considered somewhat healthier?
Well, when we first start off, we're trying to reduce as much inflammation as possible. It's going to kickstart gut healing, hormone balancing. Perfect. And so I say try to avoid it. That doesn't mean like if you're in a pinch and it's either fast food or no food, maybe the fast food's a better option. So you're not like dropping your blood sugar and causing a cortisol spike. But we really want to be thinking like, how can we plan ahead? How can we avoid having to rely on fast food? Because yes, there are some better options though. So you're going to want to stay away from the fried foods, go for like the grilled chicken and the salad or something like that. If you are in a situation where that's your normal and it's just too much to even imagine cooking your own food right now, is make better swaps within what you're working with, like with what you can, but try to avoid the fried foods for sure.
It's almost like there's ways, and you talk to clients with too. How do you have a protein bar on the side? How do you have some nuts on the side in there? You can figure it out. We live in, I don't live in the country. I live in the city. I'm not, unless I'm starving where I'm crawling into McDonald's, I'm not going to eat McDonald's because you know it's in there. And you tell your clients too, what are in these foods you're eating. So you kind of walk through them in detail, educate them to look at what you're eating and what's going on with it. French fries, McDonald's, they never go bad for a reason, because they're I don't even think it's French fries at all. With yours, it's almost understanding how do we eat healthier to make our body inside healthier so our body can stay healthy, which is the overall goal, correct? And with water too, Layne, how does water take an effect to help our GI system work better?
Well, we have to hydrate to be able to urinate and flush out toxins. So our kidneys and bladder are part of our detox systems as well. So flushing your body helps them eliminate things in the urine. But beyond that, we have to be thinking, are we dehydrating ourselves by drinking too much plain water? You know, drinking a gallon of water is like such a craze these days. And the thing is, we have to be replacing the minerals with it. Or sometimes we don't have enough minerals or electrolytes to balance out the water itself. And so a sign of this is if you pee and it's just straight clear water, you want it to be like a light yellow. That tells us that the water was going into the cells and the tissues instead of just running right through us. And a way that we can do that is using the mineral or electrolyte replacement. I love the brand Element or LMNT. I actually have a discount or a link where if you wanted to try them, you can get a free sample pack with your first purchase. So highly recommend something like that. They're super convenient to go packets and all, but that's going to help with cellular hydration. So getting the water into the cells, into the tissues where it can actually work. And that is so important for hormones and nervous system, which have a big impact on our gut.
Is Element a mineral and vitamin supplement, or is it just the vitamin supplement, or what is Element? Go over that real quick.
It's got electrolytes and minerals, so it's got sodium, potassium, magnesium.
Perfect. And we need that all the time, correct?
Yeah. Sodium and potassium are really important for the adrenals. Magnesium and potassium really important for blood pressure, but they all kind of work in concert with different organ systems and together.
It's almost musculoskeletal over your muscles and joints, but also including your diet. It's an overall good body thing to have in your body all the time.
Yeah. And here's another thing is like your intestines have muscles too. And so that's another way we can think about how minerals support gut health is the motility of our intestines, how they contract and relax. So are we losing too many minerals or water in our stool because it's more loose and diarrhea, or do we not have enough? And that's where minerals and water can come in and move things along or help replace what we might have lost in the form of like watery stools.
So, and kind of like not getting too gross about it, but do you tell your clients really watch your stools and see how they react to what your diet is changing to?
Yeah, often we'll show them a picture of the Bristol stool chart and be like, think about where you are right now. And we want to be typically around a 4. And
Okay.
so they'll be like, yeah, I thought I was normal, but turns out I'm like a 2 or a 7.
Just a loser, Layne. That's what I am. I don't know. But that's it. But then you go from, okay, if I'm a 2, how do I get to a 3? How do I get to a 4? How do I get to a, how do I get myself up the chart to make by doing the right things for my body?
Right. And that's where nutrition plays such a big role. Are we getting enough protein, enough fiber, enough starchy carbs to like feed the gut microbiome and support good motility? But also, one interesting way that toxins play a big role in our gut health is the body's always going to be very smart. And so if it's picking up, let's just say, for example, a mercury toxicity, maybe because you have mercury amalgams in your dental fillings. I am one of those people. So like I'm talking about myself currently, but it's okay. It's, been 20 some years now. So long. But mercury is a neurotoxin, and it always will be a toxin in any amount. But the body, in its wisdom, will sometimes allow gut overgrowth to take place because they can hold on to or absorb those toxins, essentially taking them out of circulation. And it's safer when they're like packaged away in the form of candida or bacteria. And so that's really common. Even though we don't want to deal with a bacterial or candida overgrowth, it can be the lesser of the evils when there's otherwise the other option is a toxin circulating in your bloodstream.
Which is good to know, because some people don't realize something may seem, for some people, they're all or nothing. You want a combination of both, correct? You want your body to be overall balanced, maybe your oral, maybe your floor, maybe anyone in your body, so you don't have too deficiency or too toxic all at the same time.
Yeah.
Are there certain minerals or vitamins we should be careful with having too much of that can cause to become toxic? Like I've heard of iron as being an issue with, especially with seniors, to where they become constipated because all the medication they're taking, they take more iron to actually maybe negate that process.
Yeah, iron and copper, to kind of talk about those can be toxic in higher levels, and iron in particular, we need it for good thyroid function and hair health and all of these things, adrenals. But if we're supplementing it without figuring out why we're low, we can run into more problems. Is the body sequestering iron in the form of ferritin because it's trying to protect you from the inflammatory effects that iron can have? So your iron looks low, but your ferritin's high. That tells us that maybe there's something else going on. Often bacteria, even parasites, can contribute to that picture. And same with copper. So I generally don't supplement with either of those unless we have the full picture.
That thing, full picture, meaning your blood work, your stool sample, everything you're doing to make sure that you understand everything in the overall body. And now, switching topics, what are common ways people detox now that maybe not the best thing for them?
Well, juices and cleanses are very common, and they're not always like the worst thing. They're not inherently bad, but you could be skipping some steps and potentially causing more harm than good. It's also more short term. So like, what's our long-term plan here? So the very first step that you always want to do for detoxing is supporting your drainage pathway. So that's making sure you're pooping every day, supporting your liver, making sure you're sweating, supporting your lymphatic system, hydration. Those are foundations that if they're not in place, your cleanses aren't going to work. And so you could just simply be wasting time and money on it. But beyond that, you could be freeing up these toxins and they have nowhere to get out. So really focusing on at least one daily bowel movement, because if you're not pooping, remember, you're not taking out the trash. So you're not going to be detoxing optimally. And then our liver is, of course, one of our primary detox organs. Most people know that. And we want it to be able to really well function to handle whatever toxins that we are trying to get rid of. And there's a lot of things in our modern lifestyles that can impair liver detoxification, like caffeine, excessive alcohol, cigarette smoking, charred meat, dysregulated blood sugar, so like high insulin, that can all contribute to liver strain. And then things that help our liver are not as common. So we're like upregulating the harmful things and downregulating the helpful inadvertently, like whether we realize it or not. It's just common. And so we want like cruciferous vegetables to support the liver, B vitamins, protein for the amino acids, making sure we're having good bowel movements, good sleep, normal insulin, managing our stress. So all those things are really important as the first steps.
And then with everything going on, what are the good things that, for example, some people do take are stool softeners? Are those good at all?
I tend to not lean on them.
Yeah.
The one that I would say while we're trying to figure out why is something like magnesium citrate. So this is going to be, of course, like bio individual. I'm not telling people to go take magnesium citrate, blindly. But as far as what's over the counter available for that, that is one of the safest options, and it's gentle enough, but also really effective. So I would.
Yeah, but again, you're trying to figure out, okay, well, how come I can't? But you're dealing with just the end product versus why isn't your system working properly, correct?
Yeah, so we use the magnesium citrate in the beginning, ideally just in the beginning. Then as we rebalance the microbiome and figure out what other functional things are causing maybe more constipation, then hopefully we're eliminating the need for long-term magnesium citrate use.
You mentioned notes too, skipping steps. What does skipping steps mean?
Well, the first is not opening up your drainage pathway. So skipping steps would be like going straight into like a detox protocol, but you only poop once a week.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
You're not only wasting time, but you're also stressing your body out too, correct? You're not eating too much, but you're not eliminating what you should be eliminating. Taking out the trash, or we say my friends say, at least, if you talk about taking the kids to the pool.
Yeah.
That's what we do. Instead of saying take out the trash, we say take the kids to the pool, I guess. That's what we usually say on our end, per se. That's our saying.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really important to not always rely on the more fancy or like shiny things, because there's a lot of that. There's a lot of trends, and there's a lot of influencers promoting like these magic supplements and things. But if you don't have the foundations in place, you're not going to feel the way you want to feel, and you cannot out supplement a poor lifestyle or poor nutrition. So it's
That's
just
so depressing, Layne. Come on now. I want to do it quick, easy. I'd rather but you're like you said before, it takes 4 to 6 months to change overall body, make your body healthy. Then keeping healthy is going to be the overall key. So it's long term. It's not just short term, correct?
Yeah, and the thing is when I talk about like detoxing, like don't detox until you're 4 to 6 months in, that means like an aggressive detox protocol, but we're detoxing in smaller ways all along the way. We're getting the poop out, we're hydrating, we're addressing the gut bacteria, we're addressing the liver. So we're supporting all of those exact foundations that I keep talking about in other ways, so that you're going to be detoxing all along, but it's not going to be so intense where we're like pulling in binders and things like push toxins. It's more just supporting the optimal functioning of the body itself.
It's almost we're trying to get the body to get healthy. But we don't do spikes, because that almost is just going to cause the body to go into stress mode and regulate back to here again, versus slowly get that foundation to build up. And you talk about swapping products. What are products that clients should be able to deal with that they swap, become their body less toxic and healthier?
So many things. Like we said in the beginning, we are exposed to toxins continuously, like the air we breathe, the things we touch, the products we use in the shower, or our personal care products, the water we're drinking if it's not well filtered. So it can be overwhelming, because you're like, oh, all these toxins, like why even try if we can't avoid them all? But there's such a mindset with it. And if you can help reduce the overwhelm and just say, I'm going to control what I can and accept what I can't control, that will help a lot. And also not trying to do it all at once, because overwhelm is a toxin itself. So if you're so overwhelmed with one, the toxins, and two, how do I get rid of them? It can actually put a lot more stress on our bodies, which is not our goal. And so a lot of the products we start with are cleaning up food. So trying to eat organic, follow the Clean 15 or Dirty Dozen list from the Environmental Working Group, because it's hard to get all organic food and we don't necessarily need to, but making the smart swap starting there, making sure we have a good water filter, air filtration in the home, but then personal care products is like our lotions, our soaps, shampoos, avoiding fragrance found in perfume and the plugins and stuff like that. So eliminating those and finding things that are safer to swap with.
It's almost making things simpler over time, your lifestyle per se, versus making more complicated. It's like my wife and I have 2 countertops, right, in our bathrooms. Mine toothbrush, razor, lotion. That's it. Everything else in the cabinet. Hers, I have no idea what's on there. So it's almost like, can we make our bodies less toxic by keeping things simple, by eliminating things that we don't really need, and then making things healthier? And again, this is 2023. We can make things healthier without having to spend more money, correct?
Yeah, I believe so, because the simplicity part is like really important, and you don't need a ton of things necessarily. So I find that I am striving to be a minimalist myself in certain
Thank
areas.
you. Us husbands appreciate that.
Yeah, that sounds
Like every day. I don't know what they're buying. I don't know what that is.
it
And
sounds like our bathroom counter too, though. So
it's like I saw a video and I'm like, she's like complaining, you can do this. I'm like, yeah, but look at your countertop. I have no idea what's on there. It's just packed. There's obviously a video. But it also, you talk about, someone asked me too, how does deodorant make your body more toxic or detox your body? Deodorant.
Okay, so deodorant and antiperspirant are two different things. Deodorant is to help with odor. Antiperspirant is to help prevent sweating. Okay. Sweating is one of our forms of detoxification. So if we're blocking that pathway, that's not our goal. So, and I get that this is like a mindset shift for people. I'm like, well, I don't want to feel, that way.
Yeah.
But other components are, there's a lot of times aluminum or fragrance in the deodorant, and our skin is our biggest organ, and it's essentially like one big mouth. I think it's like 70+% of what we put on our skin is absorbed systemically. And the caveat to this is things we swallow go through our liver for filtration. Things on our skin don't really get that luxury. And
right, so right to your bloodstream.
Yeah. And then it's going into your lymph system, which then goes into your liver eventually. So it's getting there, but it's not being filtered before it causes the harm. And so because we have lymph nodes under our arms, that's another thing, is just thinking of how that might be affecting that organ system too.
But there's been links with people that use deodorants that are antiperspirant all the time, that they have caused some links, as you know, to breast cancer, men and women.
Yeah.
So you got to be real careful with that. Anything else, products you think of from your clients that are kind of common things that you help them kind of switch or change or understand?
Toothpaste is a big one. So yeah, all like the personal care products you think of that you're using day in and day out, shower stuff, lotions, face stuff, or toothpaste, toothbrushes, is fluoride. So let's talk about that. It's a little bit of a controversial topic. But fluoride is a neurotoxin, and there's a lot of newer ways of thinking that we don't, need it for tooth health, that it, can prevent cavities. Yes, but there's also safer ways that we can do that. And there's some effects from fluoride that we don't really want. It can calcify soft tissue like arteries. So it can lead to like cardiovascular problems down the road or other arterial problems. It can calcify our pineal gland in our brain. So that is responsible for producing melatonin. So if you're dealing with insomnia or something like that, think about that correlation.
Smart.
Another really important thing is fluoride is on the same part of the periodic table as iodine, so they're, the same category. They're both halogens. And so when we're consuming fluoride inadvertently, like swallowing it in our water or absorbing it in our mucous membranes from brushing our teeth, that can mimic iodine because they look really similar, and it can throw off our hormone balance, because iodine is really important for our hormone T4 creation of that.
Is there a brand of toothpaste you recommend to your clients, or a couple brands?
Yeah, I've got 3 that I really like. My favorite is Wellness. So it's like wellness with an E. I get it from Thrive Market. Risewell is a good brand, and Boca are probably my top 3.
Perfect. And anything like that, it's being people aware of that, maybe simple knowledge to us that they may just not know. They may go to the store and go, what's the cheapest toothpaste? I need to brush my teeth whiter. Boom, I'm good to go. Done.
Yeah.
They start notes of causing problems.
And one thing I love about all 3 of those brands is they use hydroxyapatite, which is in place of fluoride.
Okay.
And so it's helpful for cavity prevention. So you can still feel really confident that you're being protected in that way without the neurotoxicity.
It's called hydroxyapatite.
It's one word.
All these big words. I don't use like more than 2-syllable words, Layne. I don't know what they mean anymore. I have to make sure I remember these things. And also going back to deodorant, what are certain brands you recommend for deodorant?
Primally Pure is a good brand.
Primally Pure. Okay, got it. 2 words. Okay.
Yes. I have this one currently. It's from a small shop though, so I don't remember the brand, but it's actually a spray, like a little mist. But it uses like herbs like basil, I know is in there. And don't laugh. I'm very serious when I say this, but lime juice, the juice of lime itself, can be very effective against odor. Now, it's not necessarily going to help you stop sweating, but
Yeah.
there's no odor.
Because it makes sense, right? It's an acidic. It'll kind of kill whatever toxins that are causing you. And why do people smell in their armpits? Why?
The
We know
bacteria.
why.
It's
Good.
the contact of sweat to the bacteria. So it has a lot to do with our microbiome of our skin. We have, a collection of bacteria and other organisms all throughout our body. So our mouth, our skin, our stomachs, all of that stuff. And there's a different balance that we want in all of them. So whenever you think of imbalances with the skin, you can think of like, how is this potentially pointing in the direction that our gut actually needs some support to?
So it's almost if our body is healthier, we're not going to smell when we sweat.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That is the philosophy.
Yes, I got one. Anything else? And we have a couple more things to go over. Anything else that you kind of want to go over that you go with your clients that becomes more like a, hey, let's make sure we focus on this one too?
Yeah, I would say you need to let me know if you're not pooping every day, number one. Then we really hone in on nutrition for the first several sessions. So like, are we getting ample protein? I really try to shoot for like 30 grams per meal, ample fats, a variety of different vegetables and plant nutrients and fiber. Liver loves stuff like that, especially herbs and beets and crucifers are so helpful for helping the liver do its job. And the crucifers are especially helpful for high estrogen symptoms. So big recommendation for that. And then the product swaps are more as we go. So we'll talk about water, like let's focus on water this week, and let's talk about, toothpaste the next week and kind of sprinkle it in so it doesn't lead to as much overwhelm. But I think just remembering the basics, like making sure we're sleeping, supporting our nervous systems. Those are some of the big ones.
It's almost like you're helping someone change their lifestyle, first of all, nutrition-wise, and then over time, little things here and there. So it doesn't seem like you said more like a big hit. I can do this. And you let them to build the confidence too. I'm seeing a difference. I'm seeing a change. What else can I do to make myself healthier? Again, long-term.
Exactly. Because if I was to give someone a roadmap of all that we're going to do in a 6-month period, they'd probably run because they're like, there's no way I can do all of that. That's why we do break it down into those smaller steps, and we build that confidence, and they see like, oh, I can do this. It is working. Okay. What's the next step? They're ready for it. So really like, the little steps add up. And I tell people all the time, like just as an example, if we want to get 30 to 45 minutes of physical activity in per day, but you're like, well, I don't have 45 minutes.
Yeah.
I have 5 minutes though. So let me start there. And then you might find I actually have 8 minutes. Now I actually have 12 minutes. And you can do it twice instead of all in one span. So it's about finding how it works into your existing lifestyle. Because if you feel like you have to totally uproot everything by like tomorrow, it's going to set you up for failure.
It almost like you need the mindset of slowly adapting. Once you get that mindset of confidence, you said, that's when they can figure out a way to add those things back to back in their life, may seem comfortable before. That actually seems like I can do this.
Yeah. And a lot of times it's because people lack energy. They're like, I'm too tired. How can I possibly do anything else more in my day? I don't have the energy as it is. And so that's where we work on maybe, let's say, sleep or our morning routine, our circadian rhythm, getting our light or eyes exposed to light. That will all help energy, which will maybe in 3 weeks give you the energy to find 10 minutes of your day to go for a walk. So it's very strategic in the way that we do it so that you're not feeling like you're not going to be able to make it work. It's about helping you find ways to be successful.
It's almost like doing little Jedi mind tricks with them too. Like, okay, let's do this. And you're almost like, okay, you're helping them in long term by understanding where they are initially. Is sleep affected by when our body's toxic?
Yeah. And it's kind of like a two-way street. So if we're not sleeping, we're not detoxing. That's like the hours that our body's like doing the most tissue repair and most detox work. But at the same token, we can have insomnia or nervous system dysregulation causing more sleep issues because of the toxins. Toxicity or lack of optimal detox pathways is one of the top 3 root causes. So we are dealing with nutrition not being in place, toxins, and then nervous system dysregulation or stress. So it's a huge area that can affect all sorts of different organ systems and daily symptoms that you have.
Nice. And it's understand, like you mentioned, there's sleep, there's what products you use for 1, 2, your attitude, everything. is a way to now adjust it so you get the benefits. Then one thing, as you did before too, you're teaching your clients how to take care of their own body. So long term, they can self-regulate. What I'm not sleeping well. I feel this. I'm not pooping enough. What's going on? So you're teaching them how to take care of their own body long term. Correct?
Yeah, like troubleshooting almost. So, and a lot of it comes down to like reflection. Like, okay, well, what happened in my life these past couple weeks? Is there something going on like stress wise or at work that has contributed to my nervous system being a little bit more haywire, which will affect our bowels, slow things down sometimes. Sometimes it'll speed things up. Can certainly impair our sleep too. And sleep has a big connection with the bowel. So it's all connected, and really taking that step back and doing a little self-assessment, be like, okay, what's been different in my life and my routine, and what might be a plausible cause for what I'm experiencing.
It's good because you're walking through the whole process. Once they feel better, they go, now I'm taking up the trash and everything I need to do. Well, I'm off now. Now they can fine tune. They can look, like you said, the big picture of which factors are not working properly and get those factors back in line.
Yeah. And another big thing we didn't talk about is like, yes, we can optimize our body, and that's the number one. But if we're not removing the toxins and there's a continued exposure, let's say of mold being a huge one, we might be able to handle a little fluoride here and there. That might not be what, the biggest deal. But if we are living in a home that has mold circulating in the air and the carpet, we can do all the detox in the world and we can still run into problems because the environment isn't different enough to support reduced toxic burden.
How do you test someone? Some of your lab tests test for mold also?
Not my traditional ones, but I have done urinary mycotoxin testing, and it was really helpful, but it was in the context of they had already built a strong foundation. So then we could go after the mold more targetedly. But you definitely want to remediate the mold in your home or figure out a different living situation, which is a huge ask, right? Like that's not just like, oh yeah, I'll take care of that tomorrow. It's a big deal, but you can test your home for mold, and like signs of that can be like random rashes or autoimmunity, obviously respiratory stuff like asthma or wheezing, always getting sick. Those are some big ones.
Well, probably the problem is too, is if it's a big ask, but is it affecting just you or your family, your spouse, if you love them, I guess, and also your kids too? So a combination of both is even maybe not on your pets, but everything in your home is being affected by the mold, not just you.
Right. But that doesn't mean that everybody's going to present the same way. And that's why it gets really confusing for people. Like, well, how can we have mold if I'm feeling like crap, but my husband's fine?
Yeah.
It's because of the genetics. It could be partially genetic, and just the toxin bucket. So the uniqueness of your own toxic load, that somebody might be able to better handle it than you. And so it's presenting in different forms.
Plus, it could be a guy thing too, where guy just like, we're fine no matter what.
Right. Could be that.
Could be that. And I saw some of your notes too. And what is your low toxic your low toxic product guide? What is that?
Yeah, so I have created a guide to help people in this transition, to help reduce the overwhelm. And because there's so many products out there, right? And not all of them are trustworthy. They might say clean or organic or fragrance free, which great, but they could still have other harmful things in there. It's kind of like we're being greenwashed. Like if you see a food that's like gluten free, that doesn't mean it's healthy. You have to look at the ingredient label. Like, oh, maybe it's just straight sugar. And
when has advertising ever been honest with you? No, it has not.
No, I mean, people, they know how to market their products and sell them. So they're going to use the buzzwords that we like to see. So what I have is basically, here are my favorite water filters. Here's my favorite shampoos and different brands that you can trust and that I have used personally or know that people really love, because they not only are clean, but they also work really well, because that's like a compromise we don't always want to give up. We still want them to work. So it's all kind of spelled out, categorized, like kitchen stuff, bathroom stuff, personal care, water filter, air filter. And so you can kind of work your way through that. And what I recommend is like printing it off, and then you can cross it out when you've already replaced it. And that way you can really see, oh, well, next month, let me focus on this. Or when I run out of dish soap, then I'll switch that for next time. And that's a very reasonable plan or strategy to go about all of that.
We all want to get healthier, and that's the biggest thing. But can we do it simply over time versus getting shocked at one time? That's great. And the other links too we have here for your website, Yeah, you're phenomenal on Instagram, TikTok, everywhere, YouTube, everywhere. So you've done a great job, like I said, the last couple of years getting your word out there. Your communication has been phenomenal. How do you want to end the show? What's a good takeaway from this overall show today?
I would say our overall goal is to help you set your body up for success. So reduce those exposures where you can, support the natural detox abilities with our gut and our liver, like the ways we talked about today, the hydration and all of that, because your body is so brilliantly designed to detox, but we get in the way of it a lot of times. So it's our lifestyle and nutrition habits that can get in the way of the way our body is meant to function. So we have to take it upon ourselves, take ownership, and change what is in our control.
Perfect. And I'm going to say something. My takeaway is to make sure you take out the trash, or as my friends say, make sure you drop the kids up at the pool. So it's up to you, whatever you want to do. All right. Quick thumbs up for the show and the show. All right, my friends. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Let's let this off real quick, and we're good to go.